Retirement can feel so unsettling, and not in the way you might expect. You may have been counting down to this for years, and yet somewhere as you plan for retirement or in the first few weeks or months of being retired, a quiet unease shows up that no one really talks about. A little voice. It doesn't sound like fear exactly. It's quieter than that. It sounds more like, am I doing this right? Shouldn't I be further along by now? And here's what's interesting. This voice doesn't show up in people who are lost or unprepared. It shows up most loudly in people who are stepping into something new, something bigger, something that doesn't yet feel like them. If you've heard that voice since retiring or since starting to think seriously about retiring, this video is for you because today we're going to talk about what self-doubt around retirement actually is, why it's showing up, and most importantly, how to use it to move forward instead of letting it talk you out of the life you've spent decades earning. Welcome to Designing Retirement. I'm Elle. I'm a retired attorney, former art gallery owner, and someone who has navigated this exact territory twice. This channel is for people who have spent years building their careers and now want to design what comes next with intention, clarity, and joy. If that's you, subscribe and we'll explore this together. All right, let's jump in. First, let's talk about what self-doubt actually is, because most people have it all wrong. Most people treat self-doubt like a verdict, like it's delivering a judgment about their readiness or their abilities or even their self-worth, like it's telling the truth about them. It isn't. Self-doubt is not a verdict. It's a signal. It's a marker. Specifically, it's your brain's signal that you are stepping outside a version of yourself that has felt familiar and safe for a very long time. Think about that for a moment. For 30 or 40 years, you've had a role. You were the manager, the IT expert, the paralegal, the business owner, the architect, the teacher. That role gave you a framework, a clear answer to the question of who you are and what you're doing here. It gave you structure, status, a community, a place where you were known and competent and needed. Retirement removes that framework, and your brain, whose entire job is to keep you safe, not to help you grow, treats that removal as a threat. Not because you're in danger, but because unfamiliar feels dangerous to your brain, even when unfamiliar is exactly where your best life is waiting for you. So when you hear, "I'm not sure I'm doing this right," what's actually happening isn't a warning about your capabilities. It's your brain saying, this version of you hasn't been here before. Therefore, I don't trust it. That's all it is. Now, here's what's really interesting. Self-doubt spikes right before growth, which means if you're feeling it, you're probably pointed in exactly the right direction. So the first shift I want you to make is this. Stop treating self-doubt like a stop sign. Most people, when that voice shows up, do one of two things. They either push through it by sheer force of will, which is exhausting and unsustainable, or they stop. They wait. They tell themselves they'll move forward when they feel more ready, more certain, more like themselves. But here's the problem with waiting. You will never feel ready before you move. That's just not how it works. The feeling of readiness comes after action, not before. I can tell you from my own experience, every meaningful change I've made in my retirement, starting this channel, launching consultations, stepping into the public eye to do work I care about, came with a wave of self-doubt beforehand, every single one. Not because I was wrong to think about starting something new, but because I was crossing a line I hadn't crossed before. And the moment I stopped treating that feeling as a warning and started recognizing it as a marker of expansion, everything changed. So here's the question I want you to swap in. Instead of asking, am I ready? Ask, what is this doubt telling me I'm stretching toward? Because once you see self doubt as a signal rather than a verdict, it immediately loses its authority over your behavior. Now, here's where most people accidentally make self doubt worse in retirement. When that voice shows up, they try to reassure themselves. They say, I've had a successful career. I've handled hard things before. I've earned this. And all of that is true. But here's what nobody thinks about. Your brain is not impressed by reassurance. Your brain is impressed by proof. Your brain is constantly asking one question: do I have evidence that I can navigate this? Not, is this logical? Not, is this what I want? Simply, have we done something like this before? And in early retirement, the honest answer is often no, because you haven't. Retirement is genuinely new territory, which is exactly why reassurance falls flat and self-doubt gets louder the more you try to think your way out of it. What actually works is building evidence, small, concrete, accumulating proof that you can navigate this new life. Not big dramatic proof, not a fully designed retirement by next Tuesday, just enough to say, I moved today, I took action, I showed up, I tried something, I took one step I wasn't sure about. In retirement, evidence looks like this. You volunteer somewhere new even though you don't know anyone yet. You start the creative project even though you're not sure if it will be good enough. You reach out to someone even though you're not sure how it will land. You put something on the calendar and you go, even when part of you would rather stay home. Every one of those moments deposits something in your brain's bank account. And that accumulation, not big leaps, but steady, small moves, is what gradually quiets the doubt. When I look back at the moments my confidence actually shifted in retirement, it was never after a breakthrough thought. It was always after action. Often imperfect action, often action I wasn't at all sure about, but action that showed me and my brain that I could actually do this. Here's the piece that most retirement content simply misses, and it's the most important thing I'll say today. Self-doubt isn't really about what you're doing. It's about how you see yourself. You didn't doubt yourself when you were solving IT problems or closing a deal or leading a team, so why does retirement feel so unsettling? It's because for the first time in decades, the role that told you who you were is gone. For decades, you had a clear, stable answer to the question of who you are. Your career provided that answer. It wasn't just a job, it was a framework for your entire sense of self. Your competence, your contribution, your community, your daily purpose. All of it lived inside that framework. When you retire, that framework doesn't just change, it disappears overnight. And what's left is a genuinely disorienting question. Who am I now outside of what I used to do? This is not a crisis. I want to say that clearly. This is one of the most normal human experiences of major life transition. But it does explain why self-doubt around retirement can feel so much more personal than other kinds of doubt, more threatening, more destabilizing, more difficult to use logic to find your way through. Because it's not really about whether you can handle the logistics of retirement. You can. You've handled far harder things. It's about the fact that how you've seen yourself for 30 years is being fundamentally renegotiated. And that renegotiation takes time. It happens through action, through trying new things, contributing in new ways, building new rhythms, discovering new sources of meaning, not through figuring it out all in your head first. The people I've seen make the most confident, joyful transitions into retirement are not the ones who had it all planned out perfectly. They're the ones who were willing to stay in motion while the renegotiation was happening. The ones who kept showing up to the volunteer work, to the creative project, to the new social circle, the channel, the consultation, even the calendar. And even before it ever felt like fully them. Because here's what happens when you do that. How you see yourself begins to catch up. Slowly, then all at once. And one day, you realize the doubt that felt so loud 6 months ago has gone quiet. Not because you silenced it, but because you outgrew it. One practical note before we wrap up, because this one has saved me more than once. When self-doubt shows up, don't give it too much time or attention. Self-doubt is manageable when it's fresh. Give it days or weeks to sit untouched, and it starts to harden. It starts to feel like the truth. It starts to feel permanent. The more you replay the doubt in your head, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Maybe I should wait. Maybe I should figure out more first. The more real and immovable it feels, even though nothing has actually happened, even though you haven't actually tried and failed. You've only imagined it. Action interrupts that loop. You don't have to take the whole leap. You just have to take the next visible step. Make the call, not the 5-year plan. Go to the event. You don't have to commit to the organization. Write the first paragraph, not the whole chapter. Post the video, and I say this from experience, before you're sure it's perfect. Every time I've moved quickly when self-doubt showed up, it weakened. Every time I let it linger, it got louder and more persuasive. That's not a character flaw. It's just about giving self-doubt permission to stick around. So when you feel it, move within 24 hours, not perfectly, not completely, just forward. Here's the truth that I want to leave you with today. The goal is not to eliminate self-doubt from your retirement. The goal is to outgrow it, because self-doubt doesn't disappear when you finally feel fearless. It disappears when it no longer fits who you are. When how you see yourself has expanded enough that the doubt simply doesn't belong anymore. Think about something you do easily now that once felt genuinely unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Making big decisions without a roadmap. Having a conversation you weren't sure would go well. Walking into rooms where you were the least experienced person there. You didn't eliminate the uncertainty first. You just kept moving. And eventually the uncertainty became irrelevant because you outgrew it. Retirement works the same way. There will still be moments when that voice shows up. There are moments it still shows up for me, but it doesn't stop me. Not because I'm fearless, but because I've built enough evidence and taken enough steps and grown enough into this chapter that the doubt no longer has authority over what I do next. And that's the shift. You can't fight your way out of self-doubt. You walk out of it, one step at a time, then another, until it can't find you anymore. And you are more than capable of doing exactly that. If you're in the middle of this transition and you'd like to think it through with some real support, my calendar is open. A 60-minute retirement design consultation with me is a conversation where we take what you're navigating and help you design a clear path forward. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to something you're living right now, share it with someone who needs to hear it. That's how this community grows. I'll see you in the next one.